I want to thank Principal Murphy for hosting us today. Students, can we give her a round of applause? Thank you, Ms. Murphy, and thank you all to all the great teachers here today at English High School. We are so proud to be able to host this event today, but I first want to start off by introducing the English High School Marching Band. Thank you, English High School Band. You are remarkable. I want to thank Governor Baker for being here today to sign this incredible bill. I want to thank Rep. Peisch and Senator Lewis for your incredible work, and all of the elected officials, senators, House members, city and state reps here who worked so hard on this bill for our children today here. It is a great day in Massachusetts. And I also want to thank especially our BTU President Jessica Tang and all the great teachers who helped fight for this bill. Thank you, Mayor Walsh, as well. Governor Baker, I want to see you sign that bill. 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 Sign that bill.
So good afternoon. I want to start by thanking all these folks here at English High School for letting us horn in on your pep rally for the Thanksgiving Day football game. So who's going to win on Thursday? Who? There you go. Just warming them up a little. So, you know, I'm trying to remember the last time I saw this many members of the legislature in the same place outside of the state Senate chamber or the House chamber, and honestly, I can't remember the last time I saw this many members, which should speak to how important this legislation is to so many of us here in Massachusetts. I think as many people know, we started down this education road many years ago in 1993 when we passed the original education reform legislation, which along with several modifications that took place over the course of the next several decades, catapulted Massachusetts from sort of a middle-of-the-pack player to being among the very best K-12 education systems in the country. But over the period of that time, there were several reports that were done, including a seminal piece of work by the Foundation Budget Review Commission that indicated that Massachusetts had work to do with respect to the way it funded and the way it supported its schools, especially those schools that provided educational services to a significant number of low-income English language learner and special ed children. And I want to give a special shout out to the two chairs of the Education Committee, Jason Lewis in the Senate and Alice Peiss in the House. You know, there's a moment in a very famous movie about high school basketball called Hoosiers. It's about an Indiana basketball team. And the coach tells one of his players, I want you to cover that guy so tight that you can tell what flavor his gum is. And at one point during a timeout, the coach looks up at the kid and says, what flavor is it? Now, this is a very long time ago. And he says, it's Beeman's. I can promise you that Jason Lewis and Alice Peiss definitely know what gum the other one's chewing, because that's how close they've been to each other for the better part of the past year, working this bill through and getting this legislation done. I also want to give a special shout out to the Speaker of the House, Robert DeLeo, to the Senate President, Karen Spoka, and to all of their members who are here with us today, because they put a tremendous amount of work into making sure this happened as well. And I also want to say, because I recognize a lot of the faces in the room, there are so many people who engaged in this debate and this discussion and stayed strong, stayed engaged, stayed determined, persevered, and helped see this thing through. This is it's not easy to pass a piece of legislation that commits the Commonwealth to $1.5 billion in additional funding over the next 7 years. But people stayed with it and they got it done, and there's no doubt that the kids here in the Commonwealth will benefit significantly from that. The one other thing I want to say, and I'm sorry he's not here today, is Jeff Riley, who's the commissioner of the department. Where is he? Jeff Riley, who is late to the press conference. Jeff is no stranger to the Boston Public Schools. He was the principal of the Clarence Edwards Middle School in Charlestown. He worked in the central office in Boston. His kids go to school in Boston. And he was the receiver superintendent in Lawrence, where he showed that, in fact, you can build a great urban education system if you have the perseverance, the intelligence, and the commitment to collaborate to get it done. And I can't think of a better guy to implement this legislation at the state level than Jeff Riley. Let me just close by saying this. I'm 63 years old, okay? Yeah, I know. There are a lot of days when it feels a lot older than that. But if there's one thing I've learned in my 63 years, it's that talent is evenly distributed. What's not evenly distributed is opportunity. And there's a reason There's a reason why this is the Student Opportunity Act, because this legislation is about making sure that every kid in the Commonwealth of Mass, regardless of where they live, where they go to school, where they're from, has the opportunity to get the education that they need to be great. And you should all take tremendous pride in what you've accomplished in getting this ball over the goal line, to use a football analogy. I know you got this thing coming up. But now the hard work for the rest of us really begins. But thank you to all who made this happen. Now I'm going to turn it over to my co-pilot, Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito.
Well, good morning. Right? It's still morning? Yeah, it's a good afternoon. It's good afternoon. You are so happy it's afternoon. You're about to have a great rally, have a Thanksgiving feast with your friends here at school, and then a football game on Thursday, right? I'm so honored. I'm so honored to be at your school, and as we come together as a Commonwealth, we count our blessings this week. And this bill signing is certainly among the blessings that we can celebrate here in the Commonwealth this week. And I want to thank the governor and our colleagues in government, all your colleagues in the state legislature, the legislative leaders, and Senator Lewis and Alice Peisch, Representative, the Speaker and the Senate President. These are the people who wake up in government every day and think about how we can make this state run better and deliver better service to the people of this Commonwealth. This is a really big accomplishment for this team. But the real big part of this is it's the right investment in the future of our Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because it's an investment in you. You are the future of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I can't think of any better way to invest in you than with a quality education. And what I love about this bill is, yes, it provides additional resources and funding to your school administrators and your teachers so that they can do their jobs better for you. But it also allows us to be more strategic about closing what are called gaps in terms of skills, opportunity, and achievement. And that's what I think this bill is all about, making sure that each one of you, every single one of you, and every single student across this Commonwealth has access to the best education, but the education that will allow you to have access to the jobs and careers that are growing here in this Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I do chair the STEM Council, so everyone knows what STEM is, right? Raise your hand. Say STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. That's a big part of our economy in Massachusetts. Healthcare, IT, computer science, advanced manufacturing, life sciences. That's where a lot of the jobs are growing. But we meet employers every day that say we don't have enough people with the skills to do those jobs. And we also hear that in the employer community, we do not have enough women and people of color in these jobs in Massachusetts. And that's why I'm looking at every single one of you and saying, this is an opportunity for you to get on these pathways that lead you to these jobs, and so that you can develop the skills and land one of those jobs in your future, so that you see yourself in STEM. You see yourself in one of those jobs, because we need you. And the final thing I would say is, there are some of you that are graduating, some of you that are freshmen in this room, right? We have the whole range. When you graduate from high school, some of you will go on to college, some of you will go on to your jobs and start your careers. We need all of you to give it your best in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And by signing this bill today, we're going to do our very best for you. Congratulations, God bless, and have a great game on Thursday. Now, this is a familiar face to you, right? This is your mayor. Let's hear it for Mayor Walsh.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. How's everyone at the English High today? This is an incredible day for education in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I want to start by just thanking a few people, and then by thanking everyone, really, quite honestly. I want to thank the governor. First of all, I want to thank your principal, Miss Murphy. Thank you, Miss Murphy. I want to thank the superintendent, Brenda Casilius. The superintendent has been on the job for about 4 months, and she's visited almost every single school, talked to almost every single student, every single parent, and passed landmark legislation, so you're off to a good start. I want to thank the governor and the lieutenant governor for their commitment to education here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I know we're here today signing a bill in Boston, but this truly is a statewide bill, and I want to thank the governor and for his commitment, and the lieutenant governor. Thank you very much for your commitment to our kids. To the Speaker, the Senate President, thank you as well. Alice Peisch and Jason Lewis, who worked many, many hours on this piece of legislation. Thank you to Aaron, who also worked on this in Ways and Means. Thank you very much. I also want to we're in a district, I'm not going to name every state rep here because if I did, we'd be here for 3 days, but we're in certain districts. We're in Senator Sonia Chang Diaz and Representative Liz Myers' district. I want to thank you. We're in City Council Matt O'Malley's district. I also want to give a shout out. When we started this conversation this term, there was a few mayors with us, one from Framingham, Mayor Spicer. Where are you, Mayor Spicer? Thank you very much. And Mayor Rivera from Lawrence. Thank you, my daddy. And I have to do this. Pastor Joe from 12th Baptist. Thank you, Pastor Joe, for being here with us. I only have a minute, I think, but I'm going to put executive privilege here, institute it. All the legislators that are here and all the elected officials, thank you, past and present, for the work you did. This is, as I spent 16 years at the State House, and we worked on a lot of different pieces of legislation, and I have to say this is up there in the top probably 3 that's going to make a direct impact on so many young people's lives in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so thank you for that. This school that we're in is historic, right? Is this school historic or what? Yeah. We have great musicians in this school, as you can hear. We have one of our rising accomplishments in the school that our math scores are going up. Technology is at the heart of the school. Robotics at the heart of this school. This school is award-winning in so many different ways. We have programs like Becoming a Man in this school for young leaders. We have multi-talented young people behind us. Those of you that are not from Boston, just take a look in the bleachers that you see the kids in this school. Also in this school, 58% of the students have English as a second language at home. Many of them are immigrants. Many of them are first generation like I am. We're first generation. When you want to see what Boston is, this is what Boston is. And when I see people... And when I hear people talk about our schools in a negative way, I think about the future of Boston is right here in this auditorium. And we need to continue to make sure that we invest in our future. We need to continue to make sure, and the governor talked about it, making sure that everyone has an opportunity. I'm grateful for the legislature today. I'm grateful because they took a system from the 20th century that worked way back then and brought it into the 21st century in the funding piece. Raising funds is important. Making sure the formula works for our students is important. What this bill means is over $100 million across the state, which is roughly $1,800 more per student here in the city of Boston. It's going to allow us the opportunity to do even more and make even more advances and gains in the school department in Boston. That's important for us together. What the governor talked about as well, it's about partnerships. We need to continue to work with each other, not against each other. If we truly want to make sure that our districts across the Commonwealth, and our districts are different. Urban districts and suburban districts are different. The makeups are different, the kids are different, the challenges that our young people have are different. And what I don't want to do is point out what the problems are. I want to say, how do we fix the situations in our schools? And that's what we're doing here today. We're working towards a goal of fixing the situations in our schools. It's about making sure that the outcomes that our young people have are successful, so that these young people someday can be sitting in this auditorium, sitting in your seats right here as future leaders to make sure how we're going to move forward. We have made historic investments in Boston over the last 5 years in the city of Boston since I've been mayor and the team around me has been there. We're going to continue to make historic investments. And we're going to continue to change our schools one school at a time so that our young people have an opportunity to be successful. Look at the face of these young kids in here. They can be anything they want to be. Any one of these kids can be anything they want to be when they graduate high school, when they go on to college and go into the life. That's what it's all about. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity. I truly want to thank the advocates in this room today. There are teachers that were advocates. There are principals that were advocates. There are parents that were advocates. There are mayors that were advocates. There were school committees that were advocates. Some of the folks couldn't be here today from all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. All of you made this happen. You should be proud of the work that you did to make sure that we got to this point. I want to thank the legislators and legislative leaders. I want to thank the time that the Speaker took out of his schedule to meet with me and a delegation of people and a whole bunch of people. I want to thank the Senate President for the time that she took out of her schedule to meet with all of us, and the chairs of the committee for the countless hours that you put into play. It can never be understated, the work that you put into this piece of legislation. And I want to thank you for that, because without your leadership, without your guidance, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you for that. I also want to thank the budget directors of all the different agencies in the city of Boston, Justin Sterrett, but the budget directors of all the different departments around the Commonwealth, because you sat at a table and you said, how are we going to make this happen? And you made the information available for people, so I want to thank you for that. Most of all, I want to thank the students for all of your work. You guys are amazing, and I love you, and we love you in the city of Boston. And as you know, as mayor, I can't pick sides in the big football game against Boston Latin, because I just can't. But let's just say I like rooting for the underdog. Go Eagles! Now I have the honor to bring up a woman who I serve with in the House of Representatives. And when you think about opportunity and dreams, it's important to dream in life. Because if you told me that I'd be standing in this hall as the mayor of Boston someday, I probably would say, when I was your age, maybe, maybe not, I wasn't that focused. But I got elected to the State House in 1997. And this next speaker got elected to the State House a couple years later, and she sat behind me. And we would never realize, probably in our wildest imaginations, that someday I'd be mayor of Boston and she'd be the president of the state senate. So let's give a nice big round of applause to Senate President Karen Spilka.
Good afternoon. Great. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Walsh. Today is an extraordinary day for all of our students across the Commonwealth, as we are ensuring a high-quality public education for every single child in our state. This is monumental and historic for the Commonwealth, but I have to say it's also amazing for me. 20 years ago, before probably any of you were born, I was on the Ashland School Committee. And as I was chair, I organized what we called the Chapter 70 Roundtable Coalition, an organization of statewide parents, teachers, advocacy organizations, school committee folks, people from across the Commonwealth, every area. And what our purpose was to fight to change this foundation budget formula. 20 years ago, we changed parts of it. We fought for adequacy, equity, predictability, and fairness. So I have to say, I look out at many of you and I smile, because 20 years ago, some of you were at that table with me. So thank you. I ran for the legislature to change the Chapter 70 formula. And here we are today amongst all of us celebrating this incredible milestone. I want to thank our hosts, the superintendent and principal, but especially the students here at English High School. Thank you for sharing your pep rally with us so that we could have a pep rally for this big day. Thank you, Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor, for your commitment. The Speaker for your friendship and partnership with this. Thank you for the Mayor for your voice, and Mayor Spicer and Rivera. Thank you to my friend Rep. Alice Peisch, who has fought so hard for this and for your doggedness with this and getting it done. I'd especially like to thank Senator Jason Lewis, who took the mantle and ran with it. His willingness to work collaboratively, to work very long hours, to feel the anxiety and the frustration of wanting to get this done, your compromise, your thoughtfulness, and your ability to listen. You and Rep. Pike, if you remember, went around the state and listened, and that is the heart of what we should do as legislators. You listened to all the stakeholders, and you pulled it together, and you did it so well. Your hard work and dedication helped to get this bill over the finish line, and so I say thank you. I want to thank the Commissioner and DESE staff and the Secretary. I also want to thank Senator Rodrigues, who worked on this conference committee, Senator O'Connor, Senator Tarr, Senator DiDomenico, who was on one of the prior conference committees, Senator Chang Diaz, and to all for your hard work, and to all of the reps and senators that helped fight for these changes. I also want to acknowledge the staff of Ways and Means, of Senator Lewis's in the Senate, and particularly on my staff, Doug Howgate, who is an amazing educational advocate as well. Thank you, Doug. Today we declare by our actions and not just our words that public education is not a luxury. It is our greatest responsibility and our greatest opportunity. We here, as noted by the governor and others, are creating opportunities to finally close that persistent achievement gap that has remained despite all of our efforts in the state. John Adams, the author of our state constitution, saw public education as the spark that would fight the fire of democracy, and continued investment in education is its fuel. With that in mind, I am truly humbled and honored to join all of you and finally make this landmark investment in our children, because you are our future. Lastly, I just ask that all of you continue to hold our feet to the fire in implementation. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Speaker DeLeo.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you all for having me here today. A special thank you to the Mayor of the great city of Boston for hosting us right here at English High School. Thank you so much. I'm so proud to be here as we celebrate a milestone for our Commonwealth. This legislation makes a deep commitment to the way we fund education in Massachusetts, and will make a profound difference in the lives of our students throughout this great state. This legislation will close the opportunity gap It ensures that all students have access to the types of classrooms and supports that they need in order to succeed in school and beyond. Congratulations to all of you. I must also tell you that I'm equally proud of the process, the collaborative process that created this legislation in order to ensure that we continue to meet the changing needs of our schools and our students. I'm deeply appreciative of the hard work that went into this legislation, not just in recent months, but over the years by Chairlady Alice Peisch. In August of 2018, the chair was by my side as I brought together a group of key Foundation Budget Review Commission members in my office, and at that point gave my word that the House would successfully pass this legislation. I appreciate her tireless work on behalf of all of the Commonwealth students, for her commitment to bringing all stakeholders to the table in ensuring that we were always putting students first. Thank you very much, Madam Chairlady. Also, a sincere thank you to Michelle Licio from my office. For her hours upon hours and many years of service in putting this piece of legislation together. As I would many nights be leaving the office, she would still be there working on education issues. Thank you so much, Michelle. A sincere thank you to our governor, our lieutenant governor, the secretary and commissioner as well, to the members of the Education Committee and their staffs, to Senator Lewis, who I will be introducing very shortly, and the members of the Conference Committee, Senator O'Connor and Senator Rodericks, to the House Conference Committee members, to Representative Tucker and Representative Ferguson, and Chairman Michaelwitz, as well as the committee chair on Ways and Means. Every one of these folks who I just mentioned, as well as just about probably everyone in this room, played a part in our being here today. And for that, I sincerely thank you for partnering with us. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here today, because someday we're all going to remember this day, and we're all going to remember what an historic day this day was, and what a great day it was for our students of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you very, very much. I now have the pleasure of introducing the gentleman in the Senate who led the Senate in his work, as was mentioned by the Senate President, a gentleman who I had the honor to serve with in the House for many years, and I'd have to say, without whom we would probably not be here today. Let's give a warm welcome to the Senate Chair of the Education Committee, Senator Jason Lewis.
Wow, this moment for me ranks right up there with my wedding day and the birth of my 2 daughters. Truly needed. The Student Opportunity Act, years in the making, recommits our Commonwealth to one of its most fundamental values, that every child deserves access to a high-quality public education. Doesn't matter what your family's income is, whether they're rich or whether, like former Governor Deval Patrick likes to say, you're temporarily broke. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, whether you're black, brown, or white. Doesn't matter whether you were born in Boston or Bangladesh. Doesn't matter whether you're able-bodied or disabled. Every single child deserves access to an excellent public education. Massachusetts will now have the most progressive school funding formula in the nation, designed to meaningfully address the troubling, very troubling, opportunity and achievement gaps that persist in our public education system. As the co-chair of the Education Committee, it has been an incredible privilege to help lead this effort. But like the Senate President, and I know many of my colleagues, this is also very personal. The issue of providing adequate and equitable state funding to all of our local schools and communities was what first motivated me to run for the state legislature a decade ago. I had seen firsthand in my own daughter's elementary school the impact of losing librarians, cuts in art and music and other programs. The first, and actually the only time that I had visited the State House prior to being elected was when I joined other parents on a bus to Beacon Hill to lobby for more school funding. And one of those parents is with us here today. We owe an enormous debt of gratitude to all of the education stakeholders whose voices were instrumental in shaping the Student Opportunity Act and getting it across the finish line. Our students, our parents, teachers, administrators, teacher unions, business groups, community groups, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, social justice advocates, and others. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the strong collaboration between the House of Representatives and the Senate that made this effort successful. With very special thanks to my co-chair, Representative Alice Peisch, who's been an absolute pleasure to work together with you. And we're not done yet. We've got a lot more work still to do on early education and other issues. Speaker DeLeo and Senate President Spilka, thank you so much for entrusting me with this important responsibility. I also want to thank my Senate colleagues, many of whom, again, have been longtime advocates for adequate and equitable funding. A huge shout out to Senator Chang Diaz. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you to Senator Sal DiDomenico. And not only has this been collaborative, but this has been bipartisan. Thank you, Senator Patrick O'Connor and Minority Leader Bruce Tarr. Thank you. I also want to give a big shout out to our staff who've worked so hard on this, staff in my office, Representative Peisch's office, House and Senate Ways and Means, and the Speaker and the Senate President's office. We're so lucky to have such talented, hardworking, and dedicated staff. Thank you. We have a lot of work ahead of us now as we implement the Student Opportunity Act. But I'm so excited that this legislation and the historic level of new funding that it will provide to all of our public schools will make a meaningful difference for students and educators today and for future generations to come. Thank you. It is now my pleasure and privilege to introduce the co-chair of the Education Committee, a longtime advocate for our schools and our students, Representative Alice Peisch.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Jason, for those kind words. I appreciate being on at the podium up here with this distinguished group of people, every one of whom was instrumental in getting this bill over the finish line. I'd particularly like to acknowledge the work of the Speaker, the Senate President, the Chair of the Ways and Means Committee, and I know that you're all tired of hearing thank yous, so I'm going to try not to. I'm going to echo the thanks that have already been mentioned here, but I would like to just acknowledge the House members of the Education Committee who are here with us this morning, who Representative Tucker, Representative Carey, the gentleman from Woburn, I think that without the work of all of these people, we would not be here, and I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge the hard work, starting with her service on the Foundation Budget Review Commission of Representative Ferguson, the lady from Holden. But I would very much like to acknowledge and thank everyone affiliated with English High School. The principal, Principal Murphy, the superintendent, the staff, the students. I particularly like to thank the students because I know that I believe I stand between you and the pep rally, and I know that you would much prefer to be in the midst of the pep rally. So thank you for your acquiescence and accommodation of this ceremony here this morning. So I'd just like to make one point. Oh, and I see another member of the Education Committee, Representative Vargas, whom I neglected to mention. I would like to just make a point that I think is important that we recognize. While we have much to celebrate today, and the signing of this piece of legislation is historic, I'd like to point out that this is just the first step down what I predict is going to be not an easy road. I'm reminded of the words of the late Mitchell Chester, former Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education, who served on the Foundation Budget Review Commission, who pointed out to me that the work educating our most vulnerable students is not easy and requires not only the resources to provide those students with the supports that they need, but also the high expectations. It is incumbent upon all of us to have the same expectations for the children who go to, for children in every single school in the Commonwealth. And I have no doubt that the students in this school can meet those expectations given the opportunity. And along those lines, it's important that we hold the adults responsible for that education accountable. And I include in that everyone, starting with those of us in state government, down to the teachers in the classroom. During the course of developing this legislation, I saw too many examples of districts with persistent gaps in achievement that were spending far in excess of the amount that we are now establishing as the foundation budget base. But somehow the neediest students were receiving the least. Accountability is not a dirty word. It is the mechanism by which we ensure that the funding we provide is spent in a way that benefits the students for whom it was intended. This bill is designed to make sure that all of us put the students first. We must never lose sight of that. And on that note, I would like to turn this over to the students. It is my pleasure to introduce Ainsley Pina, the first female football player at English High School.
I'm a senior at the English High School, and as students of all of us, we want to thank and honor y'all for being here, and we're truly blessed for y'all to sign in the bill. Before y'all leave, we have a special performance from the EHS STEP team.